All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to Monday Night Law, here at Kirk's Law Corner. This is June 3rd, 2024. We're right at the middle of the year. Things are looking pretty strange out there. Pretty crazy with all the Trump stuff and, I don't know, people getting arrested and, all that good, happy stuff that happens with the continuity of government and Executive Order 13818 taking down those involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption worldwide that some people just don't get. They don't get military operations. I know it's a tough one to comprehend. And then fully comprehend and then understand. But to kudos to those of you that do get it. And even if it took somebody like me or Derek Johnson or somebody else explaining this stuff to you to get it, so be it. Cool. Who's her back? You found some of Lord Cook's writings. Great. Have you read Blackstone's commentaries on the Law of England yet? Have you read the Law of Nations yet? Highly recommend reading those first. Just saying. Because reading means reading. Or, thanks, Brother Rob, for this book. Yay. Come on. Formation of the Union. These are that book that's documents illustrative of the formation of the Union of the American States. Yeah. Now I got it in a hardback. Again, thank you, Brother Rob. Yeah, before, good to see you, Brother Mark, out on YouTube. Before you read the Law of War Manual, read the Law of Nations, because it has a section in there, War and Peace. Highly recommend reading the Law of Nations, because that's law. The Law of War Manual is a manual written by a bunch of men. Even though Law of Nations is written by a man, it's considered as international law. So, but there's nothing wrong with reading the Law of War Manual. But I highly recommend reading the law stuff first. And then you can also tell when something, let's say in the Law of War Manual, that's out of skew from the Law of Nations, then we got a problem. Knowledge is power. So that's where that all comes from. Learning that part. Let me pull this up over here. Okay. Okay. I'll address this question out here from on Rumble. Fourth, fifth matters. Okay, if you have personal questions about your personal case or your personal life stuff, I do all that stuff through Patreon, and Tier 4 I have set up for one-on-ones. So if you're looking for help in your own personal case, that's where I provide that help. It's way too lengthy to try to lay all this stuff out to answer your question in a comment, in a responding to your comment or your question on the post. And again, that's not the way I work. So simple questions, yes, but personal questions about your own personal case, that's not what I'm here for. That's through Patreon. You were just having a little fun, huh, Mark? Well, I guess a little fun is okay. But just want to make sure that people know what things they should be reading first. For me over the last 25 years, I've been all over the place. Now that I've kind of figured out the roots of law and where we really need to start reading to get the fundamental principles and the concepts and principles of law, fundamental law, learning the basics. I try to direct people to there first because that's at the root. Once you learn the root of things, then you can read other things like the Law of War Manual and that kind of stuff. Absolutely. But really, really, really want people to start at the beginning, because that's the problem. Is when you don't start at the beginning, you don't have the basic understanding, you don't have the basics, the fundamentals, the principles. Like Blackstone's commentaries on the Law of England regarding these three absolute rights: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, which is broke down into personal security, personal liberty, and private property. Those are three primary absolute rights from the laws of nature. Is there anybody else out there that's having a hard time on Rumble? Somebody's saying that they're not getting me on Rumbles, even though it's showing that it's live. Well, it's showing that it's live on Rumble, so. Oh, it keeps dropping. Wonderful. Nothing like being shadow banned. Don't like the truth. Close, James, out on YouTube. To know a thing and to be bound to know it are equivalent in law. Yeah, and I'll now that you're over here on Telegram and you can hear me, I'll reiterate that I don't answer questions like that on my platforms. If you're looking for help with your personal cases and that kind of stuff, with education, right? Because that's what I provide, is education. I don't provide legal advice. I don't use those terms. But that's through Patreon, and I have Tier 4 set up for one-on-ones. If you want to have discussions with me about your personal stuff, that's through Tier 4. Through Patreon. You can get to Patreon through my website, kirkslawcorner.com. There's a link on there to Patreon. You can get right in there. And it's, set up for that purposes right there. People want my time. That's how I do that. Otherwise, thousands and thousands of people are asking me for my time all the time. I'm only one man. There's no way that I could respond to everybody's questions. And then you want to get specific and be about you. No, I'm about teaching the law and the history of law. educating people on how things are supposed to be done, due process of law. Yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit of a delay. One, Telegram is going directly through my computer, while Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube, and Twitter are all going through my broadcasting software. So there might be a little bit of a delay because of that. But as long as it's the audio is coming through over there, but people are saying it's not coming through and that kind of stuff. So good old shadow banning. And I'll recommend to people out there, please stop trying to give other people legal advice on my channels. You want to contact them privately, you think you know what you're doing, then go over there and you go help them. But please do not try to give other people legal advice on my channels. So, lots of things going on out there, I'm telling you folks. Again, this whole thing with Trump's case is a huge setup, right? To wake people up to the corruption. You know, Tanawa running around getting all these affidavits and serving the state attorney general's office for the states prosecuting the people without a grand jury indictment, as well as in violation of Article 3, Section 2. And again, I've showed this before now, and I have to admit, you know, the thousands plus times that I've read the Constitution, I missed that. I thought it had to do with those ambassadors and involving land, because that's the Article 3, Section 1 talks about land. Okay, that's that equitable interest in the land. But it does say a suit between a state and a citizen. The Supreme Court has the original jurisdiction. So there is no jurisdiction for a state to sue the people. So this is the gist of what Tanawa is doing out there, and now I'm part of that. And like he explained, when this does gets filed and it goes to the Supreme Court, I will be the one arguing for the state of Idaho. I'm the one that has standing, right to a cause of action. So this is going to get real interesting. Yeah. Man, you're pretty bold there, scammer, over here on my channel right now, impersonating me. Just so people are aware, notice that these scammers are only posting in the comment section because they can't post in the channel. So there's your first indicator. If I was involved in crypto or anything like that, then wouldn't I be putting that out on the main channel and not in just obscure a comment section under one post where nobody really gets to see it, except for those that want to go look at all the comments? Yeah. Gotta watch out for scammers. And again, I don't do anything with cryptocurrency, and channels cannot send private messages. So if you ever think that you've received a private message from Kirk's Law Corner LLC Telegram channel, you're mistaken. Channels cannot send private messages. Just like any other social media platform, you have to create your profile first. You know, username and password, create your profile. Okay, then you can create a channel or a group. So they're impersonating my business as a user profile. So right, yeah, they're links that they put, they're scammers. They set up other channels or groups, and their links are to their channels and groups, trying to con you out of your vital information, thinking that you're going to buy some cryptocurrency or what have you, and they just take your money. They're scammers. They've moved. I mean, they still do telephone calls, but they're really on these social media stuff all over the place now. And I had a little conversation with one, calling him out as a scammer, scumbag scammer, and all that stuff, and he just told me he wasn't going to stop. And now because he's knows who I am, and I've confronted him, he said he was going to do it more. So whatever. I just click on delete, block, ban, whatever, and report. They don't last very long. So it's waste of their time trying to come onto my channels and impersonate me and get links to people. And again, raising awareness to scammers out there that are impersonating. And it's happened to a lot of people out here on Telegram, Facebook, whatever. They're all over the place. They impersonate people all the time. So if you're already friends with somebody and all of a sudden you're getting messages about this, that, and the other, you ought to check that profile and make sure it's the right one. So just trying to educate the people on the truth here. Be very, very leery of anybody who sends you any information trying to get you to give up your private information. And I had one that he was pretty good. Talked to this woman, made her believe I was interested in her, and had several conversations with her and all that good stuff, and they were going to hook up and all this stuff. And then she was, sending me weird messages and stuff through emails and stuff, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And then she sent me a picture, screenshot of some messages, and I'm like, that's not my phone number, and that's not me. And I don't know if she quite got it, but yeah. And I don't know if you're watching right now or whatever, but I hope you got it. Hope you understood it as I explained it to you, that was not me. That I was a scammer impersonating me. So, just to clarify, I've still been single since about 2016, aside from that one woman out there, crazy psycho. Not really interested in any women. I mean, not that I wouldn't like to have, but there's just too much shit out there. I don't want to have to deal with it. I've learned my lesson. Thanks, Tiger. Yeah, there's one of my favorite ones, Jax. Looking to hook up with me. Too many honeypots, right? Diesel D's. No, that's the thing. Comment out here on YouTube. Shannon says, "Do you ever think people would use your profile to catfish people?" No. Like I've always said, I'm just some, redneck from Podunk, Idaho. I don't know who would want to try to impersonate me, but Yeah. Yeah, it's just the whole dating thing. I'm almost 53. I'll be 53 next month, and I've had enough. I mean, I would seriously love to have a significant other to share life with, but with everything I have going on, honestly, I really just don't have the time for a dating relationship. And it wouldn't be fair to her, even if she was the perfect woman for me out there. It wouldn't be fair to her because I just don't have the time to dedicate to that. I mean, I don't even have a whole lot of time to even go relax and go camping and fishing and dirt biking. So if I don't have time to do that, I most certainly don't have time to date, right? Did anybody get that concept, that idea there? And I don't know, right? Tell your dirt bikes first, absolutely. And I don't get much time with that. So thought you saw me on Match. Is that man, I don't know. It probably was on there a long time ago. Clear back to like 2004, 2005. No, but I don't know. If the right woman come along, yes. Maybe. Yes, maybe. But she'd have to fully comprehend and understand that I don't have a lot of time for the whole dating thing, so it would take some time. I don't know, sometimes Diesel D's. At least the dirt bike can roll downhill. If it doesn't run, it can still roll downhill. The perfect woman understands you don't want to talk to her. It's not that I don't want to talk to her. I just don't have the time. Right? She'd have to know her rights. Yeah, looking for somebody who's not in some sort of, especially family law issues or, any of that kind of stuff. She'd have to be awake. She'd have to be unvaccinated. She'd have to know her rights. But enough of my personal life here. I know it can be quite the conversational piece, but I'm serious into this stuff. I spend hours, days, months, years sitting here reading. I mean, there was a time not too long ago that literally was 16 to, plus hours a day of sitting here just reading and conversing with people and, trying to go through this stuff and learn. A lot of people fell to the wayside, let me tell you, but just couldn't hang. And I just, with everything that I've got going on, this is my life. I've, basically given up my life to God to use me as He needs, and I have really felt that God has called me to do this, to research, to study, and share my knowledge and my findings with you folks. Because knowledge is power. Without knowledge, we have no power. Our tongues are sharper than a double-edged sword. So if we're going to speak the law and cut these tyrants down, these criminals, don't you think we have to learn the law first? How are you going to speak the law if you don't know the law? If you don't actually know your rights. Rights as the law. Again, there's that French word droit, meaning right or law. Oh, Neo-Truther, you're killing me. Right, Diesel D's, not you guys, not the diehards. So I'm very thankful for the diehards that are here, the ones that help support me, and are want to be here, right? Want to learn, want to be a part of not just the awakening, but taking action. And Truther, I'll just go ahead and kind of go over, basically impart your question that you just posed to me right before going live tonight about the A091 form. Now, the first part is you're dealing with a candidate, and the subject matter is election fraud. Now, I've covered this before, and per this book, pull off some of these other books, Lex Parliamentary Americana, elements of the law and practice of the legislative assemblies of the United States of America. Here's the law. There's what's known as an election petition. And it specifically states in the law here that the legislature is the only one that has subject matter jurisdiction over elections, not the judicial. Okay? So, a petition is a political lawsuit, just like a judicial lawsuit, but it's in the legislature. It's a political argument, not a judicial one. So, the fact is there's an election petition in there, and I've covered that, and I can actually send that over to you, where I've already pulled the extracts out of there, and the same stuff that I already had given to Kari Lake when I was down there in Arizona for Constitution Week with my brother Jonathan Townsend. So when I got to meet Kari Lake and all that good stuff, never heard a thing back from her. Again, these people don't they don't want to listen. They don't want to read, learn, and follow due process of law. They want to follow the code. Well, the code says you go to the judicial. Well, that's because it's all ran by the bar. And it's all code, Roman civil law. Now that I've figured this out, I've actually found the facts, the evidence of what happened, and, the facts behind it, that code is Roman civil law. Now I get it. That's how everything is functioning and has functioned since 1871 or 1873, which now I found the Congressional Act, Code of Civil Procedure Act of 1873. In Idaho, they did it in 1881, the Code of Civil Procedure Act of 1881. Okay? Brother Rob, good to see you. So this is, the bar was created in 1878. American Bar Association was created in 1878. They literally hijacked our entire government because it's no longer a government, it's all a corporation. Well, except now this is what continuity of government means. In case of some sort of an emergency, and we have a break in public servants, let's put it that way, public servants, elected officials, this is what a continuity of government is, where we say, like, we had the whole House of Congress, the Capitol building there, destroyed while members of Congress were in there. This would constitute a state of emergency, because it's from an enemy attack, whether it's foreign or domestic. And then we would go into what's known as a continuity of government. Okay? Now, apply that concept to what's happening right now since essentially 2016, because that's when the first federal directive for a continuity of government came out. So it's more government de jure than it is government de facto. But even the United States Code specifically states that it's not a government, that it's a federal corporation. But that's how a monarchy works. So that means the Reconstruction Acts put us back in under the monarchy as a corporation, the United States Inc., incorporated to what? Back under the crown. And then they change us back to Roman civil law, the code. There's no real statutes. It's all code. It's all Roman civil law. So if I could get everybody to fully comprehend that and then understand it, we would all be so much better off. You know, people say, oh, codes and statutes and regulations are not law. Technically speaking, the code is law. It's a fundamental law. And like I've shared right here before, right straight out of Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England, on the screen, these three primary fundamental laws: the Roman civil law, the code, feudal law, and common law. That's your choices of fundamental law, which affects and has a direct effect on the form of government. So that's at the building blocks of a form of government. Comes from the ideology, really, but it's still just a fundamental law. CC, good to see you. Facebook. I was told today that my rights end where the social contract begins. My answer was prudent now. Answer should be law of nations, or pardon, not law, well, even law of nations, but the laws of nature. Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England and the Law of Nations, right? No, our rights do not cease to exist, even if we were to be an elected official. But see, that's the stuff they want to lead us to believe is, oh, well, you might know your rights, but you give up those rights for security and safety. No. Declaration of Independence, the fundamental principle of instituting government was to secure these rights. So, how did we get away from government was instituted to secure these rights to the point of, well, you don't have any rights because of the social compact or contract? We do not divest our posterity any of our rights. None of the law goes away just because we've instituted government. Now, we're limited when we become an elected official in doing things on our own that we would normally do in the private, but when we're in the public, you're an employee. You're a servant of the people. And you have to follow the edicts of what the people dictate. What the Constitution dictates, because that's the instrument of government. It is the law of the land. It's not code. It's law of the land. It's law. So, the thing is we do give up certain parts of like the right of conscience to, well, I'm the governor, so I can just do whatever I want to do. I have the right of conscience. Yeah, in the private, and like Chris and I've talked about a long time ago, are you on the clock or are you off the clock? If you're off the clock, fine. You're in the private. Go do what you want to do on your own farmland or whatever. Great. But when you're acting as governor in your proper person, you're limited according to the law of the land, which you are bound by. And you can only perform certain duties per the Constitution. You are limited in what your scope and authority. You don't get to think for yourself, in essence. Just like the hoax of COVID-19 and viruses do not exist and all that good stuff. It's all a big fabrication lie. I've got the proof of this. My own FOIA request, or we call public records request here in Idaho. You know, I've plastered that thing out there all over the place. No such records exist for proof of COVID-19's existence. No pictures of it. No measurements of it. No proof that the PCR test could be used to test for such a thing. It doesn't exist. And that's just from the Department of Health and Welfare of the state of Idaho. The top laboratory guy. And then I also have a crap ton of FOIA requests worldwide from from the WHO, the CDC, for all sorts of viruses, the Zika virus, the AIDS virus, all these so-called viruses. None of them exists. Okay? None. There's no such records exist. It's all shmew. It's all shit made up, folks. It's fear. False evidence appearing real because, well, you're not following the science. Well, I demanded the science, and there's no such evidence of the science to prove the science that you're saying is science, and that I'm not following the science. So, where's the science to prove the science? Otherwise, you're just full of shit and just a bullshit talker. And in trying to instill fear into the people. But see, this is coming out. You know, they just released some information on Dr. Fauci, remember? The gain of function and all that good stuff. It's all synthetic. It was manufactured in a lab in the Wuhan, China. Blah, 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 blah. Facts. Okay? So for all you fact checkers out there that want to try to fact check me on this, I'll fact check you back. I've got evidence, proof to support my claims, which I've already put out there. Same thing goes with you, YouTube, if you try to give me a strike on this. These are facts. I'm here to provide education and news. It's my business license. I've already warned you before. If I have to sue you, YouTube, for breach, I will. Because I've got the evidence. So, don't believe that shit made up. And this is in part of one of those other things, right, that I was talking about. In fact, I still have it pulled up, but I'm going to pull it up again. Let's see where it pulls up at. Come on. There we go. I still want to cover this one too, but the COVID Select Committee releases Dr. Fauci's transcript, highlights keys, takeaways, and new memo. And this was just done on the 31st, so 4 days ago. And I'll post that link here. Come on. In fact, I should put it on the main channel. But I wanted to share it tonight. This is a good read through here. And basically, they're asking specific questions. And this is the House Committee on COVID. COVID Select Subcommittee. Subcommittee. These are different transcripts. So if you want the actual transcripts, which can be used as evidence, just so people are aware. Talking about social distancing. The 6 feet apart social distancing recommendation forced on Americans by federal health officials was arbitrary and not based on science. Dr. Fauci testified that this guidance, now, see, those of you who have been following me long enough, remember we were talking about the prohibition on the use of guidance documents. And I mean, you're going to have been following me since the very beginning, because that was the breaking news right after I started doing lives from who? What was his name? It's getting hard to remember everybody's names. It was the Attorney General in 2017. I did a breaking news on that, a prohibition on the use of guidance documents. And then Trump did an executive order on that. See, that's back to the continuity of government, that the president, only acting as commander-in-chief, has the power to set up provisional government pending the outcome of war. So that's what's been going on. This is all provisional government. That's what a continuity government is, to keep the government going, to keep things, business rolling. without a major catastrophe or collapse of society. But what does it say? America's federal health officials was arbitrary and not based on science. Dr. Fauci testified that this guidance, which shut down schools and small businesses nationwide, sort of just appeared and was not based on any scientific studies. Majority Council, do you recall when discussing regarding kind of the at least a 6-foot threshold began? The 6 foot in the school? 6 foot overall. I mean, 6 foot was applied at businesses. Okay, all of this stuff came out in the proclamation, or the stay healthy orders, and all this was basically done through a proclamation through the governor, which was tied to your Director of Health and Welfare, which is appointed by the governor, by the way. So if you go back and do some research and go back to the original proclamation, and we even did separate stay healthy orders, that's what this was about. It was in there. But see, part of this standing 6 feet apart is part of a satanic ritual. Just saying. It was applied in schools, it was applied here. At least how the messaging was applied was that the 6 foot distance was the distance that needed to be. I don't recall, this is Fauci, it sort of just appeared. I don't recall like a discussion of whether it should be 5 or 6 or whatever. It was just that 6 foot is, I would like to really read the rest of that, which would have to go over here and read the transcripts. But these are just a brief overview. There we go. Another scammer on Telegram, right in the comment section, just under that. Scumbag scammer. Here we go. Bye. Report spam, delete all, and ban user. That's funny. If I click on delete all from Kirk's Law Corner LLC, how come it doesn't delete my stuff? Because it's not me. Anyway, these are just takeouts from the transcripts, just to give you a basic idea. Do you recall reviewing any studies or data supporting masking for children? Okay, this was the mask, pardon me. Did you see any studies that supported 6 feet apart? I was not aware of studies that, in fact, that would be a very difficult study to do. See, now all of a sudden this semi-truth or truth is coming out, but they sure talked a lot of talk. But here again, folks, this so-called Dr. Fauci isn't Dr. Fauci. If you go back in time, go back in history here, and go look up some older pictures of the real Dr. Fauci, and then look at this new guy, they're not the same people. It's not the same man. So, who in the hell are they talking to here? Well, this is how we're getting the truth. This is, again, a lot of this stuff's already happened, folks. This is all for us. This is the show. The truth is coming out because the deep staters are being taken down. And they're being replaced with actors. And they have to perform. Because that's what an actor does. He performs. Right, Jax? Fauci lied and people died. Absolutely. But I saw another thing today talking about how he admitted to lying to get people to take the vaccine. Let's see. Thought I shared that. Thank you. You know who you are, I'll call you Mr. C because I don't even want to say your name. Wealth of knowledge from this man. We have some pretty amazing conversations, let me tell you. He sent this to me. In his book, Behold a Pale Horse, published in 1991, the late Bill Cooper detailed how House Bill 15,090 provided $10 million to the DoD's 1970 budget to produce a synthetic biological agent, an agent that does not naturally exist and for which no natural immunity could have been acquired. Cooper said the Special Access Project that produced the human immune deficiency virus was called MK Naomi, and that it was carried out at Fort Detrick, Maryland, or Dietrich, however you say that one. SARS-CoV-2 contains HIV and it appears to be an outgrowth of this same old depopulation project that was publicly launched by the Club of Rome in 1972 with their book Limits to Growth, which is followed up in 1980 by the Global 2000 report to the president. I believe Fauci and many others in our fourth unelected branch of government were involved in this depopulation project for decades, and if we win this war, this will all come out. This also brings us to the astute comments on my website by Steve, which address the British Crown's 300-year involvement in this dastardly genocide plan. Lest we forget that the Battenbergs Windsors are major denizens of the black nobility and blah, blah, blah. This is just a little excerpt, okay? So, none of these viruses exist. It's all, again, how do you copyright or patent? You cannot patent nature. You can patent an idea. And yeah, absolutely, Jax. Bill Cooper was a serious truther. So, just, things to keep in mind for those of you that are not quite awake yet, not quite aware of the truth. There it is. Oh, did he get blasted today, Diesel? Cool. Again, all of this stuff is being played out for the general public, worldwide, right? Because this is on a world stage, folks. But, I'm trying to do what I can do to spread the awareness. So I want to just, again, all of this vaccine mandates. Dr. Fauci admitted that vaccine mandates during the COVID-19 pandemic could increase vaccine hesitancy in the future. He also claimed that these mandates were not sufficiently studied ahead of the pandemic. Previously, Dr. Fauci advocated that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated. Okay, that's it right there. I remember reading that, and there it is. It's right here. I thought it was in that screenshot picture I just showed you, but no, it's right here. Right on the government oversight website, oversight.house.gov. And that's a quote. They're quoting Dr. Fauci. So, do you think mandating vaccines can result in some hesitancy? I think one of the things that we really need to do after the fact, now, to, after the game, after the event, evaluation of things that need to be done, we really need to take a look at the psyche of the country. Have maybe some social type studies to figure out, does the mandating of vaccines in a way the country's mental framework is right now, does that actually cause more people to not want to get vaccinated or not? I don't know, but I think that's something we need to know. Well, thing is, and I called this bullshit out when it first came out. A mandate comes from the word, or from the phrase, writ of mandamus, which is a common law writ. Writs of mandamus are from a higher court to a lower court to instruct the lower court to do a thing or not to do a thing, or from the court, from the judicial branch, to a public servant to do a thing or not to do a thing. Otherwise, a mandate is, like when, two guys go fishing, or when the Obamas go see the movies. That's a mandate. Brokeback Mountain, that kind of stuff. Otherwise, mandate comes from writ of mandamus. And again, that comes from the judicial branch. And it's directed at specific individuals, designated individuals. So there is no such thing as a vaccine mandate. That's just pure tyranny. They have no authority to dictate to us what we do take into our bodies and what we do not take into our bodies. Which again, I have covered right here. There's like 8, 9, 10, I don't know, videos on where I covered this sections on Blackstone's commentaries on the law, just on those 3 absolute rights. And the right to health is under that right of personal security. We get to secure our own health. We have the right to choose, that liberty of conscience that sometimes is misconstrued or is construed as religion. Religion is the right of conscience. So the right of self-determination, the right to think for ourselves, the right to make our own decisions, the right to say no. It's just that simple. Okay? And it cannot be questioned because it's an absolute right. But it's a mandate. I still said no. This comes from the laws of nature, naturally, fundamentally, and principally. See, again, this is why I want people to learn the fundamental law, the laws of nature, what our rights are from nature. Because anything that comes in conflict with that is void for any effect. People out there teaching all the fraud and all that stuff, great. When are you going to start teaching the real law so that people will learn anything that comes in conflict with that is fraud? It's void for any effect because it's fraudulent. You can't have a fundamental absolute right as a principle and then have something that comes in conflict with it. Which one stands on a higher plane? Clearly the right stands on a higher plane than shmoo made up by man. That's just a logic and reason. So this is where we get into, are you of sound mind? Do you possess logic and reason? Do you have the ability to come to a reasonable conclusion based in reality? Because if you don't, then you're insane. You're not of sound mind. That's how that works. That's how we determine whether a man or woman is of sound mind. When I ask the question, well, what's 2 plus 2 equal? If you come up with any other answer than 4, you're not of sound mind. Because mathematics is based on logic. And it's funny, I seen a little video reel thing about, how this, whatever, somebody over there, foreign country, whatever, basically debunked mathematics and created by a white man, blah, blah, blah. Because if you take one raindrop and add, one raindrop plus one raindrop, you still end up with rain. No. You're applying something that's not there in mathematics. Mathematics is logic and reason. Because see, let's apply it a different way. Okay, if you have one apple and you add another apple, how many apples do you have? Well, they sure don't mesh together like a raindrop. So your logic is flawed. It's about how you apply mathematics. What's known as variables, which are outside of mathematics. But the principles of mathematics dictates the correct answer. And people trying to misconstrue that with, one raindrop plus another raindrop doesn't equal 2 raindrops. Well, you're not very intelligent because you just said there's 2 different raindrops, 1 and 1. But trying to, again, those other variables like, when they touch each other becomes 1. Great. But mathematically, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Fundamentally and principally. Now, you're either of sound mind, possessing logic and reason, and shall come to a reasonable conclusion based on reality. Mathematically, fundamentally, and principally, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Whether you like that or not, I'll call you insane all day long. Lock you up in a loony bin, because that's one of the laws of nature, is to shun the insane, or shun what may be harmful. Okay. Do you think mandating vaccine? And I think that's something that we need to know, whether or not people are willing to just willy-nilly follow this stuff. The fact is initially it was under an emergency use authorization. An emergency use. And, technically speaking, it wasn't even done for that. It was said it was, but it never, the FDA never approved it for use. But who actually would have to approve that? That would have to be done by the legislative branch. What's this right here? The next one. Lab leak theory. Dr. Fauci acknowledged that the lab leak hypothesis is not a conspiracy theory. This comes nearly 4 years after promoting the publication of the now infamous Proximal Origin paper. See, it's a paper that attempted to vilify and disprove the lab leak hypothesis. Huh. Okay, I gotta put it out. Neo Truth over here in Telegram. Oh, see the deer. Does the deer have a little doe? Why, certainly. $2. Wit and wisdom of ye stooges of three. That's the Three Stooges. But gotta have a little bit of fun here, right? Talking about some pretty serious stuff here of how we've been lied to, how we've been duped by unelected bureaucrats, mind you. All right. Here's the question. Just you sitting here today, do you think the possibility of their hypothesis that the coronavirus emerged from a laboratory accident is a conspiracy theory? Well, it's a possibility. I think people have made conspiracy aspects from it. And I think you have to separate the two when you keep an open mind that it could be a lab leak or it could be a natural occurrence. I've mentioned in this committee that I believe the evidence that I've seen weighs my opinion towards one, which is a natural occurrence, but I still leave an open mind. So I think that in and of itself isn't inherently a conspiracy theory, but some people spin off things from that are kind of crazy. Well, the fact is it's not a natural occurrence because it doesn't occur in nature. This was manufactured. It's synthetic in the Wuhan laboratory. And then the other thing is what a coincidence that this is exactly the same place that 5G started rolling out in 2019. Go do your own research. I've done it. The 5th generation of frequencies was first released in China. These people that they were showing pictures of dropping like flies there, at least one that they showed. Oh my gosh, people are just dropping like flies. Yeah, one. Was from radiation. Radio waves, that's where radiation comes from. Radiating, radio waves, frequencies. Which is the original so-called, oh man, I keep getting this wrong. swine flu or whatever it was there in 1918. Okay, same thing. That was when the military first started using radio communications. Yep, yep. Do your own research, look into it. That's the truth. So, there's a lot of stuff coming out about frequencies and all that stuff today. You know, again, this is a knowledge war, right? The digital war, so to speak. Spreading truth. Jeez. Spreading truth. Okay? So we have to speak the truth, but you have to know. You have to have the knowledge in order to speak it, right? So all of this stuff is coming out in videos and memes and, you know, sources, legitimate sources of the truth. And in the digital information highway, the World Wide Web and whatever have you, the internet. Now, granted, it's been a little bit harder to get to with the recent years of suppression, but things like TikTok, there's a good one. I may actually break down and get on TikTok. We'll see. But yeah, right? Jackson, do not let television programming in my house. Yep, and that's it. Spanish flu. No. That may be true too. That it was Spanish flu of 1918, but that the military was vaccinated prior to shipping out throughout the world, thus spreading it everywhere. But the fact is, the truth is, radiation, radio waves, communications. And I'll challenge any man or woman out there, go research what the symptoms are of radiation sickness. You'll find that they're almost identical. Exactly the same symptoms of flu, of any flu, of this so-called coronavirus, which even according to the medical field is a common cold. Well, what's a common cold? A buildup of toxins in our body, that's why we get a dis-ease, discomfort. It's our body a way of getting rid of the waste, cleansing itself. Well, good. There's one that says he'll stand to the challenge. Go do it. Get her done. I've already done the research. So, the fact is, again, go do the research on what the symptoms are of radiation sickness. And the correlation between that and how people have been getting it, like loss of taste and all that stuff, that's from the vaccine stuff. Okay? Which isn't even a vaccine, really. But the fact is it's a concoction, manufactured, and it's all synthetic. Okay, look at the ingredients that are in these things. Okay? Now, those that didn't, didn't get the vaccine, that was prior to all that were getting sick, radiation sickness. Again, those are the symptoms of radiation sickness. And the proof is on many different websites regarding the rollout of 5G worldwide. Started in China. So this is why, this all started happening in China. It was a lab leak. They don't want to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help them God. So, That's the truth, folks. You know, either it is or it is not the truth. Well, it is. 5G did start rolling out in 2019 in China. So, let me get that. Now let's get into the gain of function, which, I've seen this a long time ago, but this is just basically the report, right? Dr. Fauci repeatedly played semantics with the definition of gain of function research in an effort to avoid conceding that the NIH has funded this dangerous research in China. As the head of NIAID and the face of America's response to the plandemic, Dr. Fauci certainly understood the common definition of gain of function, yet he repeatedly refused, both behind closed doors and to Senator Rand Paul during a 2021 hearing, to clarify a general understanding of the term and instead only reference to his own operative definition. Let's get down into layman's term. Gain of function. That means you're doing something to gain a function. What's the function? To kill people. Huh. I mean, that's your MO. I've been around for 300 plus years, right? Depopulation. Good old Bill Gates. If we do a real good job, we can lower the population by 10 or 15%. Whatever the exact numbers were that came out of his mouth. And people just applaud. Yay, yeah, go, woo. Really? Did you not hear a word that he said? Huh. Yep. So that's what gain of function really is, and that's just all basically talking about gain of function is this operative definition, operational definition, which, again, it's just word salad. Conflicts of interest. Dr. Fauci claimed that his staff had no conflicts of interest regarding the origin of COVID-19, yet his senior advisor, Dr. David Morens, was best friends with disgraced and soon-to-be debarred EcoHealth Alliance President Dr. Peter Daszak. Considering Dr. Morens worked under Dr. Fauci's leadership for more than 20 years, it seems highly unlikely that Dr. Fauci was genuinely unaware of this relationship, right? Okay, more just, games, right? Trickery. Grant approval. This was great. Dr. Fauci testified that he signed off on every foreign and domestic NIAID grant without reviewing the proposals. He was also unable to confirm if NIAID has any mechanisms to conduct oversight of the foreign laboratories they fund. NIAID's flawed grant process, which relies heavily on trusting its grantees without verifying, leaves opportunities for adversaries to exploit. Who gives the final approval? This is Dr. Fauci. Technically, I sign off on each council, but I don't see the grants and what they are. Well, wait a minute. How do you not see the grants? What are you signing? Another bullshit argument. I never look at what grants are there. Well, just because you don't look at them doesn't mean that they're not there, because you just admit that they were there. It's just somebody at the end of the council where they're all finished and they go, here, and you sign it. Yeah, the whole grant. But you were part of it. Don't act like you weren't. Okay, so to your knowledge, and I wouldn't kind of independently verify the biosafety of a foreign lab? See, foreign lab, right? We're talking about China. Okay, so to your knowledge, and then it would be kind of verify. Again, I'd have to say I'm not sure. To my knowledge, I wouldn't be able to make a statement that I would be confident it would be. Do you know if any grants go through any type of national security review as part of the process? National security review? Plain stupid. So, like through the National Security Council or, no. Or anyone in the intelligence community? Not to my knowledge. That's why it's being done in a foreign place. Yep. Because what we're trying to learn going forward is obviously U.S. labs are vetted, certified, and there's a standard of how U.S. labs operate. Are foreign labs held to the same standard as U.S. labs when they receive U.S. money? Or are they the standards of the country in which they operate? I am not certain. I have heard again. I think it was subsequent to, of course, that was never brought up. That's why it was done over there, because it doesn't. When I was the director, no one ever asked me, who determines, what the standards of a foreign lab are. But so the answer to your question is I don't know, okay? Great. Dr. Fauci, these are feigned ignorance. Did not recall numerous issues and events surrounding the pandemic more than 100 times. Specifically, Dr. Fauci testified that despite the fact EcoHealth Alliance was conducting risky gain-of-function research in China, he did not know any details about the grant, nor did he maintain a relationship with its president, Dr. Peter Daszak. Right. Best buds for years, and you know nothing about it. You signed off on it, but you know nothing about it. Give me a frickin' break. It's called plausible deniability is what they play the game as. Well, I didn't read it, so I don't know. But I signed off on it. Well, when you sign something, especially in your official job position there, you are supposed to read it and know it. But playing the game of, the council just does it all and then slides it over to me and I'm supposed to just sign it. Right. All right, so that'll conclude this here about his, I do not recall at this time. That's a good Fifth Amendment one to remember, folks. I can't recall at this time. I do not recall at this time. And that's that's what's, what Hillary Clinton and the rest of them use, because they know it's answering the question, I cannot recall at this time. Because, see, burden of proof's on the moving party. That's how that works. They know. They know how that right works. So, without further ado, let's move on to the U.S. Supreme Court. U.S. Supreme Court Gorsuch urges states to require 12-person juries. It should be 12-man juries. But look at what's going on here, folks. May 28th, and this is from Reuters. And I'll throw this link in Telegram chat. And I'll throw it on the main channel so people can check it out too. Supreme Court Neil Gorsuch on Tuesday urged 6 states to cease using juries with fewer than 12 people in some criminal trials as the High Court declined whoa. The High Court declined to revisit a 5-decade-old precedent that has allowed them to do so. Now, wait a minute. A precedent? As in the Supreme Court said, yeah, 50 years ago, oh, that you no longer have to have 12-man juries. Why is the judicial branch not supporting the law pursuant to Article 6, Clause 3? They're bound to support this Constitution, which is the instrument of government, and the fundamental principle of instituting government was what? To secure these rights. So, Hale versus Hinkle, our rights are long antecedent to the formation of the state. That's right. American Jurisprudence, Volume 16, Constitutional Law, Section 100, talks about being mandatory and that kind of language. But this particular part talks about the bills of rights, plural, bills of rights, and those merely declaratory of the common law. And its provisions are mandatory. Oh, that's right. Rights are the law, the common law, the lex non scripta, the unwritten law, the common law, the law that's common to all, the common sense law, the common. What we all have in common here is these rights here, the law. And it dictates that we have the right to a trial by jury, which starts with a grand jury indictment and ends with a 12-man jury without whose unanimous consent will not be found guilty. You have to have unanimous. All 12. Otherwise, that is an acquittal. That's why they ask if you want to poll the jury. Because each one is supposed to have their own independent thought and ability to say yay or nay. And it's either guilty or acquittal. In reading both commentaries on the law of England by Blackstone, or Lysander Spooner's on the essay on the right to trial by jury. They both say the same thing. In fact, Lysander Spooner actually cites Blackstone. So, the fact is that's your two choices. It's either unanimous guilty. If there's one that says it's not guilty, it's acquittal. It only takes one. That's the beyond a reasonable doubt standard. You have to get consent from all 12. It's in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776. But that's what we're facing here, is case law, the precedent. Gorsuch laminated that the 9-member court lacked the 4 votes needed to agree to hear an appeal that raised the question of whether the U.S. Constitution bars juries with as few as 6 people from deciding felony cases. It's not the Constitution. It's the common law. They're having a hard time, folks, let me tell you. They're having a hard time saying that this comes from the common law. It has nothing to do with the Constitution. Long before the Constitution. These aren't constitutional rights. This is the common law. Real law. Part of our customs. Plain and simple, folks. Lex non scripta. The unwritten law. Plain and simple. It is a body of law, a jurisdiction, a fundamental law. Again, Blackstone cites those 3 primary fundamental laws: Roman civil law, the code, feudal law, and the common law, which the origin of the common law comes from the Saxons, which are maxims of law and customs. Not case law, not stare decisis, not previous decisions of the judicial branch. Yeah, kick rocks. But Howard, this is denying justice. Well, we decided not to hear the appeal that raised the question. You have a duty to perform. You don't get to determine what cases you take and what ones you don't. If it's been appealed, that's part of due process of law. And justice is to be without sale, denial, or delay. You need to be performing your duties. Period. You signed on for that. You got nominated. You got appointed by the Senate. Perform your duties under the Constitution. You don't get to pick and choose which ones you take and which ones you don't. That's like telling a McDonald's employee whether or not he's going to make French fries today. Well, I don't feel like making French fries today. Well, you're fired. Because that's what I hired you to do. You don't want to perform your duties under the emoluments of your office, you're fired. But I think this is one of those ones that they're holding off on. Because remember, the new standard of review is text and history. Okay, Rising Fawn out here on Rumble. Are state courts constitutional? No. Our whole form of government's been hijacked. It's all under Roman civil law, the code. I've already exposed this. Go back a few videos and watch. That Code of Civil Procedure Act. I've showed it right here in the Idaho Code. Title 1, subsection 101, the very beginning of the Idaho Code, the enumeration of courts, all gets started from the Code of Civil Procedure Act of 1881, including the Supreme Court. So therefore, even the state Supreme Court and all other inferior courts are all Roman civil law courts. None of them are constitutional. None of them. But see, this is why we're under a continuity of government. This is what's going on. So the Supreme Court's the only one, really, of the United States of America, is the only one that's kind of being controlled right now. Some of the federal courts, still got a lot of corrupt actors out there. But there are many that were nominated by Trump and appointed by the Senate under a continuity of government, this provisional government being pending the outcome of the war, with the instruction to start upholding the Constitution and our rights. Okay? I can only hope someday there will be, he wrote in dissent. But in the meantime, Gorsuch stressed that nothing was stopping the 6 states that allow for juries with fewer than 12 jurors from changing their laws. Those states, Arizona, Connecticut, Florida, Indiana, Massachusetts, Utah, and allow for 6 or 8 member juries. Idaho does. Idaho allows for 6 member juries. I just went through 2 of them. The appeal was brought by a Florida woman, Latoya Cunningham, who was convicted by a 6-person jury of aggravated battery and retaliation against an informant, to whom her nephew had sold crack cocaine. She was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Well, that's a felony, supposedly. Felinated aggravated battery. Okay? Where's the grand jury indictment? Right? Jack's life has not been the same since these criminals started this satanic ritual against us. Absolutely. And honestly, it's just a repeat of history. It's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. But there you have that particular part. That they're denying they couldn't get enough judges to take it. I guess they're just not prepared to rule on that. So, the time's coming, folks. And let's not forget my own personal case here. I'm already challenging all this stuff. It's in my paperwork, already in the court record, already being challenged. So, this is going to get quite interesting because eventually I'm going to make it to the Supreme Court. And now that I know that the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction, woohoo! Hello, here I come. And I might need some serious help, folks, with funding for that. Making numerous trips out to the Supreme Court of the United States of America to argue all this stuff and do the paperwork and all that good stuff. Now that I know about Article 3, Section 2 and the Supreme Court having original jurisdiction, like I said, the stuff that I've been working on and stuff that I'm doing is going to have a direct effect on everybody. It's just a matter of time. It's getting close. Now, I'm going to go back in history here because I want to show some people about fundamental law. Oh, where is it? 1681. There's Ordinance of Virginia, 1621. What? I had it pulled up. This is the one on the right to the assistance of counsel according to their own manner. And all courts, persons of all persuasions may freely appear in their own way and according to their own manner, and their personally plead their own causes themselves, or if unable, by their friends, no person being allowed to take money for pleading or advice in such cases. Now, that's changed today because the maximum law is a man is worthy of his hire. But this gets back to that right to the assistance of counsel. Well, where the heck is the one? I had it pulled up right here. Oh, I bet this is it right here. Yep. Charter of Fundamental Laws of West New Jersey, agreed upon in 1676. Now, part of that history of law here. That these following concessions are the common law or fundamental rights. So the common law is fundamental rights of the province of West New Jersey. That the common law or fundamental rights and privileges of West New Jersey are individually agreed upon by the proprietors and freeholders thereof to be the foundation of the government. Isn't that like the Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776, as a theoretical foundation of all government? Which is not to be altered by the legislative authority or free assembly. Okay, so in 1676, they're talking about the legislative or the free assembly. Would that be that part of that right to peaceably assemble, to consult for our common good, to instruct our representatives, and to petition the legislature for the redress of grievances? I think it is. Hereinafter mentioned and constituted, but that the said legislative authority is constituted according to these fundamentals, to make such laws as agree with and maintain the said fundamentals, and to make no laws that in the least contradict, differ, or vary from the said fundamentals, under what presence or allegation soever. Hierarchy. Laying down the law here. Okay? And anything that comes in conflict with this is void for any effect, because that's what that's saying. But look at the next part. But if it so happen that any person or persons of the said General Assembly shall therein designedly, willfully, and maliciously move or excite any to move any matter, subject matter, or thing whatsoever that contradicts or any ways subverts any fundamentals of the said laws in the Constitution or of the government of this province, it being proved by what? 7 honest and reputable persons, he or they shall be preceded against as traitors to the said government. Okay, imagine that. Well, the thing is this is real law. This is history of law. And this is laying down the common law as the fundamental law and the power of 7 men. That these concessions, law, or great charter of fundamentals be, this is great, recorded in a fair table in the assembly house, and that they be read at the beginning and dissolving of every general free assembly. And it is further agreed and ordained that the said concessions, common law, or great charter of fundamentals, be writ in fair tables in every common hall of justice within this province, and that they be read in solemn manner 4 times every year in the presence of the people by the chief magistrates of those places. So they were supposed to read the law. That no man or number of men upon earth hath power or authority to rule over men's consciences in religious matters. Therefore it is consented, agreed, and ordained that no person or person whatsoever within said province at any time or times hereinafter shall be any ways upon any presence whatsoever called in question, or in the least punished or hurt, either in person, estate, or privilege, for the sake of his opinion, judgment, faith, or worship towards God in matters of religion. But that all and every such person and persons may from time to time and at all times freely and fully have and enjoy his or her their judgments, and the exercises of their consciences in matters of religious worship throughout all the said province. You know, this is law, people. This is part of that history, text and history, that new standard of review. Here it is. This would be one of those things that I bring up when it comes to the right of what they've tried to narrowly construe about the right of religion, which is the right of conscience. It's not even supposed to be called into question. If I say no, that means no. We're done. So, all you military service members and anybody else, but mostly military service members that were unlawfully discharged from the military or had to walk off or whatever have you. Again, I've got Scott Lauterbaugh and Mark Bashaw that we were supposed to meet yesterday, but Mark got home from Germany from vacation and totally forgot about it, which I don't blame him. Took his mind off of everything. So, but we'll be meeting next week and trying to get this stuff rolling to do a petition to Congress following due process of law and demanding that they do an investigation now that some of this stuff's all coming out about COVID. this is a great time to drop that petition in there and start cleaning out the military establishment of all these corrupt individuals that said it was a mandate. Yeah. Again, out here on Rumble, Rising Fawn, they are all Roman civil law courts. All of them. None of them are legitimate courts. None of them are constitutional. None of them are lawful. They are Roman civil law, the code. Okay? All of them, including family courts. All of them. From the Supreme Court down. All of them. That's what all means. So, fully comprehend and understand that all of the courts are Roman civil law courts. They're all created under the Code of Civil Procedure Act, which alters the fundamental law from the common law to the Roman civil law, the code. Okay? Once everybody learns this and understands this, comprehends it and understands it, again, we will be so much better off. It's all unlawful and unconstitutional. Right? Lawful, full of law. Unlawful, not full of law. Full of law. See? Common law. Law of nature. Law of nations. Has the word law in it. Proper diction, jurisdiction. So, that's what that jurisdiction means. Juris, law, diction, words of that law. It's a body of law. Jurisdiction, common law, is a jurisdiction. Roman civil law is a jurisdiction. But it's like we've been here before. He's combined this Declaration of Independence, combined with others, to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, given his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. I just covered this 2 weeks ago. Showed you again how the Idaho legislature, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Idaho to amend the Idaho Code, because the code is the law, which is Roman civil law. They have subverted What the hell is that? Where is that? Right here. Or any ways subverts any fundamentals of the said laws of the country. It's not just subversion, it's straight up subverted, yeah, but it's just fundamentally altering. Back to the Declaration of Independence. That's the other one here. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, our rights as laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government. Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England, fundamental law. They've altered the fundamental law. They switched us from common law to the Roman civil law, the code, in 1873. 1881 in Idaho, in the 11th legislative session for the territory of Idaho. Well, true common law terms is maladministration, misfeasance, malfeasance, treason, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with the power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. Now, that's what I said. Where's our common law courts ran by the people? Suits at common law. Suits between man and man? Where are they? Oh, yeah, we took those away. Right there around 1930-ish. They finally basically abolished them all. That was the third and final bankruptcy, where they used the people as the chattel. Right? That's what happened with the third and final bankruptcy, is the people became the chattel. And again, this is when the birth certificate started, right? That's how that all happened. Clear back to the Sestake Trust Act of 1666. That's how far back that was when they started doing that. 300 years ago. Prior to that. Now we're talking 350 some years ago. Okay? These people play a serious generational long game. This has been in the works for a long time. Here's another one. For abolishing the free system of English laws, the neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. That's Roman civil law, the code. That's what they're talking about here. In all of these. Fundamentally altering the form of government. Roman civil law. The fundamental law. For suspending our own legislatures, because our own legislatures come from the common law. Oh. For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, including the grand jury indictment, including a 12-man jury. Again, people, reading means reading. I mean, it says what it says as it is written. So, I just keep reiterating this stuff because, I've come to the reasonable conclusion based in reality is repetition, right? Repetition is what it's going to take. Keep saying it over and over and over. Again, Rising Fawn, out on Rumble. It's the Roman civil law, the code. Yes, it's ran by the bar, but we have to fully comprehend that they have altered the fundamental law. They have changed us from the common law as the fundamental law to the Roman civil law, the code. United States Code. Code of Federal Regulations, Uniform Commercial Code, Idaho Code. Code is Roman civil law. It is a body of law, done as a fundamental law. They have altered the fundamental law. They switched us from common law back under the Roman civil law, the code. That happened in 1873. Congressional Act. That Code of Civil Procedure Act. That's not to be confused with Rules of Civil Procedure and Criminal Rules of Procedure. No. This is part of a form of government as a fundamental law. They've altered fundamentally our form of government by changing the fundamental law from the common law, which is rights as the law, maxims of law, customs as our rights as law, and over into Roman civil law, the code, which is under the crown temple bar, right? The Roman Empire, the Roman Catholic Church, under the ideology of Catholicism, not the ideology of Christianity, where man is creation of God, we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, versus under the crown, the king or queen or what have you, under ecclesiastical law that, well, we're here to save your soul and dictate to you your morals and principles, and you don't have rights, you have privileges, and only those privileges that the king or the queen or the prince grants you. Yeah, they're not called civil rights. Well, they are under Roman civil law. See, if you understand the word right and law are synonymous, interchangeable, comes from the French word droit, then when you say Roman civil rights, instead of saying Roman civil law, we say Roman civil rights, maybe people will get it. At least a little bit better. But they're privileges and immunities. They're not in the sense of natural, God-given rights, right? Which is higher than any man. Because then God is the sovereign, versus under Christianity as an ideology, as a theoretical foundation of all government. The law of the nation, its ideology, versus Catholicism, where the king is the sovereign. The sovereign has the power to create. So, and the one that has the power to create has the power to control. So this has been the test, the test of time, the argument of time, the war of all time, is the ideological conflict between Catholicism and Christianity. That's what the Magna Carta in part was about. Bringing back that Roman civil law, Catholicism as an ideology, because again, the common law is an ideology of the Christian Protestants from the Saxons. Okay? Blackstone lays this out in his commentaries on the Law of England. Bouvet's Law Dictionary 1856 talks about it. Okay? That's what we're talking about here. Again, a fundamental law. Fundamentally. Okay? It comes before the Constitution, which is different, essentially, than Roman civil law, the code. They don't care about constitutions. The code is the law. See, that's the difference in ideology and form of government. Under Catholicism, they don't do constitutions. They do charters. Charters, corporate charters. You're granted, again, civil rights. You only have these powers that are granted to your corporation. Does that make sense? Charters. Charter is corporate charter, granted by the king. Versus common law, God's law. Okay? All right, folks, it's that time for Monday Night Law to come to an end tonight. Unfortunately, I gotta go because it's that time. So I thank you all for tuning in tonight, paying attention and learning here, wanting to be here to learn. I greatly appreciate the likes, the follows, and the shares, of course. God bless America. God bless the world. God bless everybody. We need it. And all you prayer warriors out there, please keep praying. It's coming. Right? These things, the wheels of justice move really slow. And again, most of us, you and I, we're not in the need to know. But make no mistake. Make no mistake. It is happening. Has been happening. Executive Order 13818. has been happening for a long time. Okay? So, for those of you who would like to help support over there at kirkslawcorner.com, and then go to Patreon, sign up tier 1, tier 2, or whatever if you'd like to donate monthly, or even if it's a one-time donation, just sign up, make it whatever it is, and then give it a few days for it to go through, and then cancel it. One-time donation. Or you can send it over to the office. 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Suite G, as in golf, Boise, Idaho 83704. Thank you, James Skin, Fix It Fast. Thank you for pushing that stuff out there. The Patreon link, the address, and the whole 9 yards. Thank you, brother. Again, go to kirkslawcorner.com. You can get a direct link to Patreon, or you can see it here in the comments. Thanks to James Skin or Fix It Fast if you're on YouTube. All right. God bless America. God bless the people of the world. Let's do this, folks. We have to bring unity. We got to learn and start doing something, taking action. We got to start telling on these people. Get this stuff cleaned up. All right. God bless America.